Okay, what are we doing today?
We are grinding some coffee from Taiwan. This is from Ali
Okay.
Shan on this magnificent grinder. Here is our coffee that we're grinding.
Pretend we have the actual bag there. It's
Yes.
printed on a piece of paper.
I've been using this grinder and it's wow. Incredible. This is the V1 or V0 single edition.
This is a single edition of the M98V. But yeah, today we're going to talk about Taiwan coffee, what it tastes like. We just did this release of that a beautiful bag of coffee, the washed and the natural, but we have a little bit more of the natural, so we're going to do a little brew of the natural to taste.
This natural
And then
against the washed.
the wash. But
Yeah, this is sold out.
yeah, that's sold out.
This
but
we have some more of.
yeah, but really limited amount because it's
Wow, it smells amazing.
very, very small amount of coffee, like 5 kilos ish.
Wow. You
What does it
smell
smell like? People can smell through the camera. Oh, wow.
Luca,
Really
do you want to
nice.
smell it?
Super floral, fruit
Woo!
forward. I'm
Yeah.
actually quite surprised by the amount of fruit in there. But this is a
lot of
production roast.
fruit.
So if you saw the previous video that we shot about those 2 Taiwan coffees that Jiyoon brought back from her trip to Taiwan, we talked a bit about generally what those coffees taste like. But today we're going to brew the natural. Then I actually like the natural more, surprisingly. And we now have a production roast of it that we're going to brew. I'll just show you what I'm doing for the brew, but I'll brew it on V60.
So we cut this off the sample roast a couple days ago. It showed up amazing. Like Brian said, it was he preferred the natural over the washed. This farm, Zou Zhou Yuan, is in Ali Shan, and it's led by a husband-wife duo by Rainey and Chang Fun. And they won second place in Cup of Excellence in Taiwan this year with their Gesha Natural. So this is not the same lot, but it's the same producers, the same terroir, the same secret sauce behind the beans.
Yeah, and you were there. Like, you got to go to the farm.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put some farm videos in this here or some photos. And yeah, did you also participate in the COE judging for that?
I did. It was Taiwan's first official Cup of Excellence. Something very special about Taiwan is that it mirrors Panama in many ways. They're all about quality over quantity. So if we think about Brazil being the largest producer and exporter of coffee, guess how many bags they produce a year? MJ.
Somebody guess.
Guess how many bags of coffee Brazil produces a year? Just say something.
100.
What?
1,000? 100?
Wait, okay, so Luca.
What size bag?
I
60
I do
kilogram bag.
know the meme. Okay, I do know the meme you're talking about.
500,000.
Okay, Brazil produces about 60 million bags of 60 kilogram bags. Okay, in contrast, Panama, which is known for luxury coffee, guess how many bags they produce, Brian, a
Like
year?
1,000 to
They produce about 120,000 bags.
100. Okay, wait, 120,000. Right. Okay.
120,000 of 60 kilogram bags.
100,000.
Guess how many
Okay.
bags Taiwan produces?
Isn't Taiwan like 1,000 or less? It's really small.
It's really small, so it's like a tenth of Panama, so about 10,000. So
10,000. Okay.
very, very few. 10,000 versus 60, 65 million in Brazil. So Taiwan coffee is very, very hard to find. And I'm so happy to be featuring these 2 coffees. And so the producers in Taiwan have this mentality of really, really optimizing for quality over quantity because they can't produce that much. And the little that they can produce, they want to do their best possible job. And they have many different things that work in their favor. Many of the coffee producers today are generational tea growers. So they employ techniques that they learned in tea farming for generations, like hand picking, hand sorting, fermentation, oxidation. So all the carbonic maceration that we talk about in coffee, they've been doing that in tea and oolong for generations. And now they're employing that lens and perspective from tea production into coffee. So it's really very exciting, and there's no place quite like Taiwan when we think about coffee origin countries. And they have the climate, they have volcanic soil, they have very consistent rainfall throughout the year, so that allows the producers to grow coffee in a consistent environment where the coffee can mature very gradually. They also have altitude, so both of these producers are over 1,300, and Taiwan goes up to 1,600, and it's very exciting what more they will be bringing to the world.
Just taping these coffees onto this. So we're trying to, whenever I'm here in town, I think we'll try to film some of these videos on this cart here, so it'll look a little nicer for you all. But pretty much, we're gonna brew the natural. I have a lot of opinions about Taiwan coffee. I've had the privilege of running a little small business related to roasting and importing some of these Taiwan coffees. Actually, I've gotten a coffee from this producer as well. But as we brew and we taste, this natural is like incredibly impressive. So I thought it was worthwhile to, for us to brew more of. But you only have, I mean, you brought back what, less than 15 kilos, like 10 to 15 kilos of these coffees, right?
Yeah, I brought 5 kilos of the washed and 10 kilos, a little under 10 kilos of the natural. So we are sold out of the bundle. Mm-hmm. No more washed, no more of the Jinglong coffee.
Yeah.
Jinglong is also a renowned producer for tea, for oolong. And now Tony and his wife, Wan Yu, have taken over and are doing an excellent job with coffee growing. Mm-hmm.
And but when we were cupping, even then, the natural was just so expressive of coffee. Actually, both of them were, in my opinion, stellar representations of Taiwan terroir. Or really, I think a lot of people ask the question, like, what does Taiwan coffee taste like? The simplest way I can explain to you what Taiwan coffee tastes like is if you've ever brewed tea or something like oolong tea and you let the tea leaves dry, there is that component. Like if you think about flavor profiles and how all the different regions have like a distinctive flavor profile, you get some of that dry tea leaf effect in here. The interesting thing with both of these coffees is how cleanly that is presented. And oftentimes with a lot of these, newer regions or smaller regions, I personally think Taiwan coffee is very, very far ahead, where that dry tea leaf effect, or the terroir here, it's not terror, it is not overpowering things. It is integrated in there. Like, this coffee is not trying to be like, it's not Taiwan coffee. It is saying, this is Taiwan coffee, and this is a natural
executed
process.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say the difference between the natural and the washed is that the washed is very clean, crisp, floral. The natural is beautifully fruity, but at the same time, very clean.
Yes. And it's also, there are also clean presentations of that tea leaf effect, that dry tea leaf effect, that Taiwan soil. Like, that's what it's supposed to taste like. So we're gonna go ahead and brew. We're brewing on V60, by the way. I have a Cafec Abaca in here, and my kettle temperature is 94 Celsius. I find with these Taiwan coffees, I tend to like somewhere between 92 to 94 Celsius, even for the lighter coffees, because there's a lot of sweet, I was telling you this, a lot of sweetness there, like sweet fruits, and a level of florality that's quite interesting. It's like, this is Gesha. Like, again, this is a naturally processed coffee. This isn't like, crazily processed, and there's nothing really covering up that Taiwan terroir, but the Taiwan terroir is like in there, that it's super, super expressive in that regard. But our dose is 15 grams, and I'm just gonna brew. You can, I also wanna mention that these coffees are roasted on Loring, they're light, and they can be pushed in a variety of directions. So I'm just gonna go and brew, but feel free to, use any sort of recipe that you desire here. Wow, that smells great.
Woo!
What are you getting? I'm gonna let this one bloom for a bit because this is actually a fresher roast off of production. But by the time
Yeah, we roasted this yesterday.
yesterday, so we're gonna use a little bit of mellow drip in this.
I think this coffee will taste great after some rest. So I recommend when you receive your coffee to start experimenting, start brewing after 2 weeks of rest time or more and see how the coffee evolves.
Yeah, but wow, you know it's got a lot of just really interesting fruit characteristics. I want to say like red fruit, tropical fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. But I'm just gonna do the rest of this brew with lower agitation, mellow drip. Try to really let the coffee express itself. But I did that longer bloom at the beginning to help open it up because this is a little on the fresher side.
So the husband of the producer duo team at Zou Zhou Yuan is called the Coffee Prince of Taiwan because they're really at the forefront of innovation and pushing boundaries in coffee production in Taiwan. And it's fantastic what they're doing.
And I'm going to brew this one actually to a 1 to 17 just to see what happens. So 15 to 255. I do think for these coffees, slightly stretching them out a little will give you a really good idea of what does that region taste like, especially when these coffees are roasted, this light. Like the fact that you can roast some of these coffees pretty light is representative of how strong the green is. Like you're not trying to cover up anything. But one thing I am smelling, there's a tea component. There is 100% a tea, like a floral tea component in here that I'm smelling. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But when it was blooming, once we added more water, but before we added more water, a lot of those fruit qualities. So there we go. Finishes up in a little under 3 minutes, but wow. That's the thing is like, you don't smell any like off flavors in here. There's a lot of structure with what this smells like, florality, sweet. All right, let's give this a taste. Let's give some of this coffee to some of the Bean and Bean staff, but here we go. Like to try?
MJ loves fancy coffee.
Fancy coffee. Okay. Wow. Floral.
Did you taste it?
I didn't taste it yet, but it smells floral.
Cheers.
Cheers. Acidity. Wow.
Wow.
So when I cupped it, the sample
wow.
roast that we cupped, it was very expressive. But this brew of lowering production roast, there's that definition of acidity in here. And
High def.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is a high def coffee. It's so,
It coats your tongue
wow.
so delicately.
It's delicate, but also the acidity is like intense.
It's like pow.
Yeah. But then after that acidity that I'm getting, which I would say this is like, I don't know, you could say red fruit, tropical, like.
Yeah, I think it's like a mix of all
Yeah.
these different fruits. When I cupped this coffee, both at Origin on their farm and here a couple days ago, I got a lot of mango. But today I'm getting many different fruits.
Yeah, maybe because of how I brewed it there. But what's interesting, loud acidity, then into what I would classify as that Taiwan terroir, dry tea leaf oolong effect. And then it's like so much sweetness. I mean, the linger, this is something that I did not get on the cupping table, was the linger.
It's incredible.
The linger of sweetness on this. This is actually really impressive. I mean, you're good at picking coffees, but maybe this is a really good brew. This is also brewed in a way, like, if you guys play around with those recipes and all of that, like I was doing low agitation mellow drip, so it is very sweet, very high clarity, high definition, and of course we're brewing on a really nice grinder, But
Wow.
that acidity is loud. So I'm like, if you brew this coffee high agitation, that I'm really curious where that acidity would go. But this is like such an expressive coffee. Very impressive.
The acidity is loud and pronounced, but the way it coats your tongue is it's like a thin veil, just coating your entire tongue and stimulating all of your senses. And I get like yellow, pink, orange, red, all the colors.
What's also interesting, I don't know if this is a hot take, but the oolong tea, it kind of reminds me of like a milk tea in a sense. There's like a high quality, well put together beverage is also in there. Like that tea effect, it's sweet. Maybe like creamy. I would say creamy in a little bit too. It's just on your palate. Two things that I look for in generally a lot of Taiwan coffees. Although I haven't had a lot of Taiwan Gesha, I've had a lot of SL34s from Taiwan, SL34 honeys.
Taiwan grows a lot of Typicas, SL34s, Geshas.
Yeah, Taiwan Gesha I think is like definitely on the rarer end. Is that you get a lot of that acidity, like the definition of acidity. Like to me, this is like a well harvested and well processed. They're not trying to cover up anything in that processing, and of course, like the roasting here is not covering up anything that is considered like an off flavor. Oftentimes, when you explore some of those, off-region terroir, right? Like I've had some Taiwan coffees where that Taiwan, that dry tea leaf effect is too overpowering. This is here, it's in there, right? They're not trying to cover up that this is Taiwan coffee. It is there, and it is super pleasant, and this is a very, very stellar representation of how good Taiwan coffee is. Like I'm very surprised by this. Like on the coffee table, I was like, oh, this is fine. It's good. It's very impressive for a Taiwan coffee. Like you always say, oh, it's good for an X, Y, and Z thing, right? But this is like brewed production. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. So
yeah, and
wow.
as it cools, I'm getting like
let me try
juicy, tart, pineapple.
I mean, that lingers still, like it's on my palate. It is fresh. Like so, here's the other thing too. This is pretty fresh. We did grind it and we let it sit a little bit before we brewed. So, and then I did long blooms and all of that. But I'm like, wow, I'm so curious how this coffee will taste 3 to 5, even 6, 7, 8 weeks off roast.
Yeah.
Like how structured can that acidity become? And one other thing to mention, now that it's cold, is really great harmony. That's also how we're brewing, right? If you brew mellow drip and you push the coffees out, I started at 1:17 ratio because I was curious. I was like, okay, if I'm brewing it at 1:17, am I going to taste things falling apart because I stretched it out too much? I'm not. I feel like you could push this coffee even harder and extract even more out of this, which is insane to say about a Taiwan coffee. Like usually these Taiwan coffees, I'm like, oh, I need to, back off a little on the extraction, use lower temperatures.
But we want more.
Higher number better, right, guys?
It's so clean and so pleasant the way it finishes.
Wow, I'm very impressed. Now I'm really curious about what the wash production will taste like. Unfortunately, there isn't any of this coffee left because you guys bought it all.
But the lucky 35 of you who got to buy both of these coffees, I encourage you and invite you to taste them side by side. As I always say, the best way to improve your palate is to taste multiple coffees at the same time and see how they compare to each other. Yeah, those lucky ones that will get to taste both of these.
Yeah, taste those side by side. I mean, again, these are just stellar representations of what is possible in these regions. And, it can only get better from here, like it can only get better. The thing to also recognize, again, is like the cost of these coffees is very high because the volume is low. But what you're buying into is you're supporting what is possible, right? You're supporting
in Taiwan,
the fact
a newer
that these exist,
origin.
right? Yeah, so very impressive. I also want to thank everybody who picked up these coffees. You know, we did this for Lunar New Year's, and I want to thank Jiyoon for picking these coffees up and allowing me to do this really fun collab here. But yeah, I like the natural more, guys. I like naturally processed coffee, okay? Especially if it is of this level of expressiveness and cleanliness and harmony. I
have
genuinely
a
impressed.
special like affection towards these coffees because I hand delivered them straight from Taiwan, snuck them into my suitcase, and I have been waiting for months to launch this, and we were timing it to line up with Lunar New Year. So
Yeah, but I want to thank everybody for spending time watching this video.
Happy
Thank
Lunar
Jiyoon.
New
Yes, happy
Year.
Lunar New Year's. Yeah, really impressive coffees. So try them out. Also, DM Cup of Jiyoon on Instagram if you have any feedback. We're always curious about feedback. I mean, you know, it's her roastery, so she definitely is interested in feedback on these coffees. But I am actually just genuinely impressed. I mean, this is the first time we're trying this coffee on production. It was just roasted.
Ooh.
It's incredible. So, yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you around.